What's going on, everybody? I just watched the first half of Manchester City versus Manchester United, and I just wanted to take a look at Manchester City's build-up in this match. So they started off with two holding midfielders, a back four, and De Bruyne as the lone attacking midfielder with a more narrow front three between Mahrez, Jesus, and Sterling. Manchester United did a 4-4-2 with Shaw, Maguire, Lindelof and Bissaka, McTominay and Fred were the holding midfielders. Pogba was a narrow left midfielder. Greenwood on the right, Fernandes and Rashford up top. And this was a 4-2-3-1, 4-4-2, or 4-2-2, depending on the phase of the game. And especially defensively, we really saw the 4-2-2-2 shape from Manchester United, and offensively it was a bit different. But just looking at their defensive phase right now, and a key pattern for Manchester City in the first half, although they didn't create the chances because of the effective usage of Manchester United and the use of their attacking players' cover shadows when pressing, the pattern they displayed the most in the first half was just Fernandinho would drop into the half space next to Diaz, and it was a bit asymmetrical as I split the half space into two parts. Fernandinho was in the outer part of the half space, Stones on the weak side was more central, and Diaz would have the ball. And this is how they would shape, and Rodri would come as the lone pivot now, and this was their shape in the build-up phase, entering the midfield third. So, as we see, we have three central defenders occupying the middle three corridors, and it was a bit asymmetric, as I already said, giving them different passing options from the half space and in circulation. Rodri was the lone pivot, and then how this would shape when they would press. Fernandinho would get the ball. Greenwood would go and press Fernandinho. Fernandes would be responsible for Diaz and Rashford for Stones, but when the ball was on the strong side of Fernandinho, Rashford wouldn't go out and commit. He would hold the center, and then between McTominay, Fred, and Pogba, McTominay had a greater job shifting. Fred would occupy the center, and Pogba would be on the weak side. So even if the ball went to Cancelo, McTominay would be there using his cover shadow to block the half space, forcing Manchester City to recirculate possession. So this was pretty effective for Manchester United for most of the game, other than a few chances that City developed. And now, another variation that City used of this. Let me just put the pieces back in order. And then a big difference was when the ball would go back to Ederson, then Diaz and Stones would fan out, and they would form the back three here, and Fernandinho would come back inside with Rodri, and then they would build up with a 3-2 structure rather than a 3-1. So, with that being mentioned, just so no one's confused, if Ederson does get the ball, we know what City's plan is, and City are very flexible in possession, so this wasn't always Fernandinho. Just majority time I was watching, I saw Fernandinho out there, but sometimes it would be Rodri, or Rodri would be on the weak side more likely because of the position he plays as the right holding midfielder, but he would come most of the time as a central lone pivot, and then sometimes if the shape got pretty narrow from Manchester United, more of a 4-3-3. Sometimes De Bruyne would drop in as the lone pivot, or as the double pivot, I should say. Sorry about that. And then this would create passing options and 3v1 situations between the back three of Manchester City and the two holding midfielders, as I'm just drawing here. So pretty much what we see is more of a principle these days in a lot of teams. If a team presses with three players up front, Manchester City will switch to two holding midfielders just to shorten the passing options and to create more passing lanes between the front three into the two holding midfielders. But if they're just pressing with two players, then just one holding midfielder is sufficient to break that press. But with Manchester United's use of their cover shadows made it quite difficult for Manchester City. And then just the final little pattern that we see in their initial structure was the dropping of Cancelo into the half space. This would put Sterling out wide, and De Bruyne would now be narrow. So this would also create a three-man build-up. Now two holding midfielders, and Greenwood would now be pressing Cancelo. And now the width is always being held by Walker, Sterling, or Walker and Cancelo. And then just a little mention of why I split the half spaces into two parts. And this is really due to De Bruyne. De Bruyne wasn't stuck to the left side, although he appeared here a lot. Sometimes I'll put Fernandinho back. And now Sterling in the middle. But a lot of times De Bruyne would come deeper, and this would stagger the positions of the two players in the half space just to create a little diagonality between them, and so the half space wouldn't become too linear. And he would do this on the far side as well with Mahrez. So just a little note on that. And it would just create an overload that allowed Wan-Bissaka to be pinned, McTominay to now not be as free to go out and press, and just another potential rondo in the game. Oops, sorry about that. A little potential rondo, a 4v2 or a 4v3, but Manchester United handled it well with the use of their pressing cover shadows. As I just highlighted, the rondo, the players involved in the diamond. And then the last little effective thing that I saw in Manchester City's build-up, so I'll put De Bruyne back between Tommy and Fred. Okay. So the last little piece was when the the fullbacks on Manchester City, Cancelo and Walker, when they did become more narrow, maybe as a pivot. Walker didn't do this quite as much as Cancelo. We saw Cancelo do this a little bit more. So if Cancelo came in the middle, Sterling would come out wide, and De Bruyne would go forward to pin Bissaka and get Sterling in the wide area. So this was mainly to change up the personnel in the wide area. So now Sterling, we see Sterling is free. Sterling is free, and he has more space, and then this would allow him to create 2v1s or 1v1s and use his qualitative superiority against his defender. So I can't wait for the second half, and I'll see you guys after the game. If you like this video, hit the subscribe button and like it. Leave a comment below on what phase you want to see for the rest of the match, and let's see who wins.